The engine coughed once, twice, then went silent, and in that dead moment beside a dusty roadside, a struggling single father realized that if this old truck failed him now, his entire fragile life might collapse with it, because some machines don't just carry bodies, they carry survival, dignity, and the last hope of a man who has already lost too much. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unseen connections that change lives, please take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to channel name, because stories like this only travel as far as hearts allow them to. He was not always this man, standing in worn boots and a faded jacket, hands shaking as he counted crumpled bills. Once, years ago, he had been a soldier with straight shoulders and steady eyes, someone who believed hard work and honesty would always be enough. War took that certainty from him piece by piece. It took friends, took sleep, took the easy laughter that used to come without effort. When he returned home, he carried medals in a small box and silence in his chest, but no one teaches you how to turn survival into living again. His wife tried to be patient, but grief is contagious, and love sometimes drowns when two people are both gasping for air. Then illness came, quiet at first, then ruthless, and within a year he was a widower with a young child and a life balanced on overdue notices and borrowed time. The truck had become his lifeline after that. It was old even when he bought it, paint chipped, seat cracked, engine loud enough to announce his arrival from a mile away. But it hauled scrap, delivered furniture, moved anything anyone was willing to pay a few dollars for. It carried groceries home and his child to school and hope from one job to the next. When the transmission finally gave out, the mechanic's estimate sounded like a foreign language made entirely of numbers he did not have. That was how he found himself scanning classifieds and bulletin boards, searching not for something good, but something that might last just a little longer than his fear. The widow lived at the edge of town, in a small house where time seemed to pause politely out of respect. Her yard was neat but quiet, like it had learned not to expect much. The truck sat beneath a tree, its shape solid, honest, unpretentious. It wasn't pretty, but neither was desperation. She met him at the gate, a woman whose eyes held both strength and tiredness, the kind that comes from carrying grief alone for too long. Her husband had owned the truck. She said it plainly, without drama, as if speaking his name too loudly might disturb something fragile inside her. He nodded, respectful, because he understood that kind of loss more than he wished he did. They talked about practical things. The mileage. The quirks. The price. It was fair, almost too fair, and guilt flickered through him as he handed over the money, wondering if she was letting go of more than metal and rubber. She watched the bills with steady hands, then looked past him for a moment, toward the house, toward a life that had changed without her permission. When she finally gave him the keys, there was a pause, a hesitation that felt important, but she said nothing. He thanked her, sincerely, and promised he would take care of it. He didn't realize how true that promise would become. Driving away, he felt something unfamiliar, relief, yes, but also a strange calm, as if the truck fit him in a way that went beyond necessity. The seat adjusted easily, the mirrors were already in the right position, and the engine's rumble felt steady, confident. He chalked it up to luck, the kind he hadn't felt in years, and focused on the road ahead. Work slowly returned. Small jobs turned into regular ones. The truck didn't just run, it endured. Each mile felt like a quiet reassurance that maybe life hadn't finished with him yet. Weeks passed, and one evening, while cleaning out the glove compartment, he found a folded piece of paper wedged deep inside. It was yellowed, edges soft, written in a handwriting that wasn't his. It was a name, a unit number, a date, things that pulled at memories he usually kept locked away. His chest tightened as recognition crept in slowly, like dawn breaking over a battlefield he thought he'd left behind. The name belonged to a man he had never met, but whose actions had shaped his entire future. The memory came back with terrifying clarity. A roadside explosion. Smoke thick as night. Pain and confusion and the certainty that this was where his story would end. Then hands, strong, determined, dragging him from the wreckage, pressing fabric against a wound, shouting for help that seemed impossibly far away. He never saw the man's face clearly, only the urgency, the refusal to let go. He had woken up days later in a field hospital, alive, told that someone had pulled him out just in time. A name had been mentioned, then lost in the chaos of recovery and discharge and the long road home. Now that name sat in his hands, written by the same man who had once owned this truck, the husband of the widow he had met only weeks ago. His breath caught as the weight of it settled over him. This truck was not just transportation. It was a thread, stretching across years and pain and survival, connecting two lives that had brushed against death together without ever truly meeting. Sleep didn't come easily that night. Gratitude and grief tangled inside him, along with a sense of responsibility he couldn't explain. The next day, he drove back to the widow's house, heart pounding harder than it had in years. He didn't know what he would say, only that he had to say something. When she opened the door, recognition flickered across her face, followed by concern. He stood there, awkward and overwhelmed, holding the folded paper like proof of something sacred. He told her everything in one long breath, afraid that if he stopped, he wouldn't be able to continue. He spoke of the explosion, the hands that saved him, the life that followed because someone else had refused to let him die. As he spoke her husband's name, her composure broke, not violently, but softly, like a dam releasing years of held-back tears. She listened, hands trembling, as if hearing a story she had always needed but never knew how to ask for. In that moment, something shifted for both of them. Her husband was no longer just a memory frozen in photographs and folded uniforms. He was a living force, his courage echoing forward into a life he never got to see. For him, the debt he had always felt but never known how to repay finally had a face, a place, a purpose. They sat at the small kitchen table, the air heavy but warm, sharing stories that filled in the gaps grief had left behind. He spoke of his child, of trying and failing and trying again. She spoke of quiet mornings and empty chairs and learning to breathe in a house that no longer echoed with laughter. There were no promises made, no grand declarations, only understanding, a rare, steady thing. From that day on, he returned often. Sometimes to help fix a fence, sometimes just to bring groceries or share a meal. The truck became a symbol of continuity, carrying not just tools and cargo, but connection. His child grew comfortable in the widow's home, finding in her a gentle presence, someone who understood loss without needing it explained. Slowly, the house at the edge of town grew less silent. Life didn't suddenly become easy. Bills still came. Work still exhausted him. Grief still surfaced when least expected. But now there was meaning layered over the struggle, a sense that survival itself was a shared act, passed from one person to another like a torch that refused to go out. He took better care of the truck than anything he had ever owned, not out of superstition, but respect. Every oil change felt like honoring a promise made long before he knew it existed. Years later, when stability finally found him, when his child laughed freely again, when the weight on his chest eased just enough to let him breathe deeply, he understood something that war, loss, and hardship had all tried to teach him in fragments. Lives are not isolated stories. They overlap in ways we may never fully understand, and sometimes the help we receive echoes forward, shaping futures we will never see. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness can travel across time and tragedy, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to channel name. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who might need hope more than they realize. And before this story ends, we have one special request. Please comment below with a word, a name, or a memory that represents gratitude in your life. Let's honor the unseen connections that keep us going. Because somewhere right now, a struggling person is being carried forward by an act of courage they may never fully understand, just like an old truck carrying a life that was once pulled from the edge of war, still moving, still enduring, still proving that some debts are not meant to be repaid, only passed on.